Hello, a little bit of a midweek update here. It is Sunday, and gosh, I've been doing some different things than putting plywood on. So, got a little bit to talk about, I guess. One of the things that I want to do sooner rather than later is get that plywood edge radius, the top of it radius, so I can get fiberglass laid up over top of it. Excuse me. The reason I want to get that done is because it makes such a mess of everything. You know, when you're up there 10, 12, 14 feet high, it throws the sawdust on absolutely everything. So I'd like to get that part of it at least done so that I can get the shop cleaned up just a little bit again. So with that in mind, I wanted to do a test first to see how that router bit was gonna radius that. And so here I've laid up just 3 layers of scrap plywood, and I glued them together, got them clamped onto this workbench here. And I'll trim that flush, and then I'll go ahead and run the router on there and see how I like that and how deep I want to go and so forth and so on. So that's one of the next jobs that we're going to be doing, is getting that edge up there radiused. And another thing I wanted to do, of course, was get my port lights in, or get the holes at least in the hull for the port lights. Now, a long time ago, I had started this, and I made a couple of patterns for this port light here, or porthole, I guess it is technically. And I did a mock-up of the hull. This would be the 1.5 inch or 2x planking, and then the plywood glued on top of it. And so I need to have a hole in the inside for this whole thing to drop into, and then I need to get this recessed down in there so that this is laying flush down there. And it does a couple of things. One, it makes the portholes fit, because otherwise the hull is way too thick for these. And I wasn't having a whole lot of luck finding port lights that and portholes that would fit into a hull this thick, a 2-inch thick hull. So we have to recess them. So the initial hole gets cut in here, and then we router this down in here to drop the whole thing in there. Makes the portholes fit, but it also means that there's nothing sticking out on the side edge of the hull. The way this boat is designed, with the shear, the raised shear part of it being vertical, you could potentially rub up against something and, and damage your port lights and portholes and stuff. So by doing it this way, it'll recess them and we won't have any issues with that. So it's been a long time ago since I did this, so I decided maybe I should redo this again, make sure I understand how I want to go into the hull with my patterns here, and then run the router and cut the holes out in the hull. So I laid up another mock-up of the hull, again 2x material underneath and a 1/2 inch plywood. Got it glued up. I'll pull these screws out, and then I'll go ahead and cut this again with the router, as I'm going to do in the hull, so I don't have any, or hopefully don't have any major screw-ups. Now, I got a little bit different port light the second time than I did the first time. You notice these here are more rectangular and these are more oval. I don't know why. I guess I decided I like the looks of these a little bit better. I don't know. That was one of the things I was thinking about doing on the boat, is making it look a little more angular than, you know, George had the lines flowing a little smoother and whatnot, and it made the boat look, I thought, a little bit more old-fashioned, which is fine. But anyway, I thought I liked the looks of these just a little better. So I got one of these, and I'll do the rest of them. I got 4 of them, and I'll need several more, but I don't know. We'll see. I don't think that it's that much different that it's going to be that big a deal. But if I put one of these in, maybe I put this one in the head, and then put these in the rest of the boat, the forward head for this one. But we'll see. But anyway, so I got new patterns made here for this more rectangular porthole, and then of course these would be for this one here. So we'll get those cut out of this piece here, and then we'll see how that works, and then hopefully start working on the holes in the boat, because they will have to go in, you know, not right here, but in this area here up forward, and then a couple back there in that aft cabin. Now, another thing I did the other day was this edge, for some reason, when I was going to screw up and didn't get my plywood wide enough, I had little gaps here in a couple places. This one down here, it wasn't quite out to the edge of the hull. And I had the same thing here. I had the plywood didn't quite reach, and when I measured, I must have measured up there just a little bit farther, and so I had this little area here where the plywood didn't meet. So I filled this with the structural thickened epoxy, and I also put some wood fiber in there, some table sawdust, or whatever you want to have it. So I built that back up so I can get this routed edge in here. Now it needs a little more sanding, but to bring this all perfectly smooth and flush, I left just a little bit proud in some areas here, so I'll need to get that sanded down. But this was the only place I really had that issue. I don't know why I kept doing it here, but so be it. It's fine. This will be perfectly fine. And yeah, so I got this epoxied in. You know, it's the first time I've worked with epoxy in I don't know, a couple months, I suppose. The very first layer of plywood, when I put it down along all the outside edges around the perimeter, I used epoxy, thickened epoxy, to glue it down. But the rest of this was just that regular PL Premium to glue these sheets on. So I haven't been using epoxy in a while, which is kind of strange. It's something I use so much of so frequently throughout the build of the boat that it seems odd that I haven't been using it in a while. But yeah, we'll be back to using more epoxy here again in the very near future. So that's where we stand today. Like I said, it's a Sunday, and a little bit of sun today, not full sun, but enough that I can work anyway again. It hasn't been an issue the last few days. I've had enough sun. So yeah, we're able to keep on going, and I'm gonna get back at it. Hello, welcome back to the boat shop. Today is January 8th of 2024, and I've been doing a few odds and ends here the last couple days, although I haven't gotten as much done as I wanted, and I'll explain that here in a minute. But so here is a mock-up of the hull, the 2x material planking, and then the 1/2-inch plywood on it. And here's my pattern that I made to cut out the new port lights. There's the patterns and the mock-up of the hull I did originally for that oval port light. Excuse me. Here's that original oval port light, and then the new ones I'm buying are all these more rectangular ones. But yeah, I discovered that I don't have any router bits for my bigger router. They're all 1/4-inch shank bits. My pattern bits that I've got, they're 1/4-inch shank for my little trim router, and that works, as you can see here, but it's not ideal. The big router with the 1/2-inch shank bits works much better. So tomorrow I'm gonna go buy my new generator and do a little shopping, spend the day in the city and do some shopping. So I will get some new router bits in the 1/2-inch shank if I can find them. One thing I've also been doing is I've got the aft end of the boat. I don't know if you can see it there or not. There's a little patch of green there. I've been rounding over the outside edge here with my round over bit and my big router. But I had a few places that had little divots in there, like when the router was going over, when the flush trim bit router was going over there, it would hit like a screw hole, and then it would cut in a little bit deeper. So I've been filling those, and there's several of them on the back here that needed to be worked on, so that I don't have a weird dip on the routered edge. And this was the mock-up I did of the deck. This is the 3 layers of plywood just glued together, and then here's my round over bit. That's what that's going to look like rounded over. And yeah, I think that should work just fine. This one here, this edge here, went just a little bit deeper, so it left a bit of an edge there. And then on the other one, well, maybe it's the other way around, this one was a little bit deeper. And I shallowed it up just a little bit, so I didn't quite get the edge. I don't know, I did here a little bit, but the rest of it's pretty good. Yeah, just a touch with the sander will get rid of that anyway. But anyway, it worked pretty well. Yeah, pretty pleased with that. It's not going to take a whole lot of extra work to finish that. Of course, fiberglass is going to go over epoxy and fiberglass. So, yeah, I think that unless there's a large void somewhere in the plywood, I think we'll be all right. So we carry on with that. I need to do a little bit of sanding. There's the router where I left off in the sander there, and so we need to do a little bit of sanding where I put some filler in there, and then carry on and get the aft deck done. And then we'll need to do the whole foredeck too. And you can see here, this has all been filled and sanded now to bring it all flush with the side of the hull. And now we can run the round over bit here too. We really need to get this cleaned up enough, down here, so that the router bit's bearing has something smooth to run on, so we get a nice edge up here. Like this here isn't going to matter because it's in the path of the router bit. But yeah, I had a little extra filler that I put in there, that fairing compound, just to fill that hole in there, that gap in there between the vertical and the horizontal bits of plywood. So yeah, it's slowing me down just a little bit because and then I had a whole bunch to do on the side over there too, so I couldn't start on the foredeck because I had this area to fill and patch and fix. And then I wound up realizing I had a bunch over there too that I had to do. So yeah, we got that done the other day too. It needs to be sanded yet over there, and then we'll be getting pretty close to being ready to start routing over this edge on the foredeck. Finish the aft deck here. But the reason I want to get this done is, and I think I mentioned this probably in the past, I want to get all this routering done because it makes such a mess of the workshop. I mean, you can see I got sawdust on top of everything, and then on my shelves and my tools and the workbenches and the floor. And I want to get all this routering done so that I can get the shop cleaned up again. And there's no sense in cleaning up while we're shooting wood chips from way up here. We got cats on the prowl. Cats on the prowl, and a dog, and an Archie dog. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So not a whole lot of other work to report for this week, but we're getting things slowly but surely. So I will leave it at that and talk to you again next week.